Hey guys, what's up? It is Marty here with
Erin.
And this is episode 9 of the Better Together podcast, which is a ministry of Sandridge Baptist Church. The podcast exists to tell stories, and we believe that stories are powerful, that we actually worship a God who has told great stories, who wants to involve us in his story, who uses our stories for his glory and to advance the kingdom of God. And so as we grow as a church, one of the things that we're doing is doing this podcast so that we get to know each other. There may be people that you don't know or we don't know or whatever, and this is our way of hearing people's stories so that we can know them better and so we can grow and give God glory. And so, Erin, how are you doing today?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yeah.
It's been a great week. We, as many of you know, well, by the time this comes on, we'll probably be in Disney World or just gotten home from Disney World. But Marty's about to take a 2-week sabbatical, and we're going on vacation for a week after that's over. And I'm excited.
2 weeks.
Well, a week, week and a half. And
so you're basically what you're saying is that staying at my parents' house is not a vacation.
This is going on the internet, so
yep.
I would never say that.
I was just going to see what you were saying. I was just going to see what you were going to say, because I said 2 weeks, and you were like, nope, just one. I love you.
Nope, for the audio, I'm smiling.
I love you.
That's right. But I'm excited about this topic that we're getting to today, because I think it's, there's several verses or several times in the Bible where it's mentioned that if we are not doing ministry to widows and orphans, we are not doing the ministry of the church. That is what the heart of Christianity should be about caring for those who can't care for themselves. And so today we have two of the three. I think we only have 3 foster families in the church. Do we have any others? I don't know of any others. Just you two and Bonnie.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My mom.
Yeah.
Mandy forgot her own mom.
Yeah, they're looking at us like 3.
I need her to take some of these kids then.
We should have included Miss Bonnie, but I kind of wanted to. I feel like Bonnie's passing the baton to the younger generation.
It has been passed.
It has been passed. And you two are heading up an exciting new venture that the church is kind of partnering with you in the foster parent association that you've just started for Henderson County. Partnering in that, they are allowing them a place to meet and host events and things like that. Yeah. But I'm excited to talk to them today about their story and how that came to be. So
on the show today, we've got Amanda Taylor and Mandy Taylor, no relation.
By blood. No relation by blood.
No relation by blood, but relation in Christ and sisterhood. And it's, I was very close to calling you Amanda Foley, and so I'm glad I nailed it on the first one. So for people who don't know who you are, we start every podcast with kind of like a get to know you type thing. Just tell us who you are and what brought you to Sandridge Baptist Church. Either one of you can go first.
This is Amanda, and what brought me here was Chuck and Debbie Foley. When I was before I was born, I was here, and I grew up at this church, and then I did move away for some times, but I'm back now, so I've been here a long time.
A long time. I've not been here a long time. No, I've been here a long time, but not that long. So this is Mandy Taylor. I belong to Rick and Bonnie Taylor, and I started coming to Sandridge when I was 13. I have a younger brother. We grew up in foster care, and when I was 13, Bonnie, who is my first cousin, actually, kept me from going to another foster home by becoming a kinship foster parent. And so we had always gone to church in the foster homes we'd lived in, but I personally did not have a lot of good experiences, so I could have cared less about coming to church, but my brother really loved coming to church. So he bugged and bugged and bugged and bugged. So Bonnie, who I call my mom now, so that's who I'll refer to her from here on out. But my mom brought us to Sand Ridge because that's where she remembered growing up. She came with our Aunt Betty when she was a kid, and we never left. We're still here. I, like Amanda, moved away to Knoxville and to Memphis, but I came back. So here I am.
It's like a magnet. It just pulls you back.
It just pulls you back, yeah.
I mean, here we are, Erin and I. Erin grew up in this church. I met her, started going to this church, joined this church, went away to do ministry, and now we're back. And so, I mean, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. So what I want to talk about, like we've already you've mentioned, is we want to talk about this concept of foster parenting and how there's a lot of ways we could go with this, I think. And I want to hit several of the big ones. Number one, I kind of wanted us to talk about is why would you do this? Because and hear my heart on this when I say this. Like when I ask this question, I don't want it to sound disrespectful, but why would you open your home to someone else's kids who have been removed in terrible situations, who come to you, who just, let's be honest, they don't know how you do things. They don't know how to act. Some of them are acting out. Some of them are in distress, and you're having to deal with that. And like I've watched y'all navigate appointments and medical visits and all kinds of other stuff. Why in the world would you take that on yourself?
So I guess I'll start because Amanda probably does it in part because of me.
Yeah, that's true.
I was that kid. I mean, I entered the foster care system when I was 5 years old. I think I was in foster care for about a year, maybe. Went home for about 6 months, and then we returned back to the foster care system. And I stayed in the system until I aged out at 18. And I didn't always have the best experiences in foster homes. I had some good experiences and then some not. So I knew that I always wanted to be a foster parent. I wanted to be one of those good homes. But what really sealed the deal for me, because I'm single, so I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it by myself. I'm not going to be able to. I need to be married. I need to, kind of have that to do. But in 2016, I had a family member who was going through a rough time, and her child was going to be put into foster care if she didn't have anywhere safe for her to go. And so I just randomly said, okay, I'll do it. So I took her little bitty baby, 8 days old, and I took care of her. I had custody of her. We did it without the foster care system. There was no DCS involvement other than removing the child and helping me get custody. And I walked with her through probably some of the hardest times of her life. 2 years, and after that 2 years, she was able to get custody back of her child, and then and they're doing great. They're a family, married, have all their kids, and but after that experience, I realized that, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
So there is some grief involved, when the kids leave. Especially if you've had them for a long time, and probably that little bit of grief that I experienced is what pushed me into, I need to do this for other people, because of the experience of not just giving that child a safe place, but also being a light and an encouragement to her mom and her dad. And so in 2019, the summer of 2019, I took the classes and became a foster parent. And
here we are.
How
many kids have you had so far?
20.
20.
I've had 20 kids in 2 years. And that doesn't count my family member.
Right.
That's just my DCS cases. Now, some of them have stayed a night.
Right.
Some of them have stayed a month. but I have had several long-term cases, the shortest being about 5 months maybe, up to a year. But yeah, Amanda and I are very different when people ask us, like, how long do you keep the kids?
I know.
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
My experience has been very different. And like Mandy said, the reason I probably did get into it or was interested is growing. We became friends when she started coming here at Sandridge and ended up being best friends. And learning her story and journey kind of opened my heart to it. And then my parents even did it for a little bit, and I was so excited. We were already out in college when they started doing it, and I was so excited that they were doing that because I was just like, man, people need to do this. People need homes. Right. And just knowing the places that, you know, like Mandy said, she went to send some not so good homes. And even my mom sometimes struggled when she did it, saying, I don't know if I'm really making a difference. I said, Mom, you're giving them a safe place where they know at the end of the day that they're loved. And that's, I mean, to me, the heart of it is giving children a safe place where they know they're loved for the time, however long that is. Yes, in my case, it means I'm most likely at least adopting 3, possibly 4 kids within 2.5, 3 years. We've only had one placement that was with us for 3 weeks and went to live with the grandmother. So yes, our stories are very different, and but that doesn't make any different of the fact that I would love to have seen reunification happen, and that the heart of this, restoring families, is what we want to see. And yes, am I realistic enough to know that doesn't always happen? Yes, but trying to keep those family ties is important.
Yeah.
So, like, people see you guys come to church and they see you bringing in the kids, they see you bringing in all the stuff, because, like, in your case, it's like diaper bags and backpacks and all kinds of other stuff. And then they see, like, your posts on social media where they, like, you know, I know that you're not allowed to post your kids a lot of times, but they see, like, that, you know, I know there's several people who've heard your heart behind it already.
Yeah.
And so this may have just been a refresher for them. But what I think that a lot of people don't see is they see you for that hour or that 2 hours here at church, and they don't see the times where it's low.
Yeah.
They don't see the times where it's hard and you're struggling. And so I thought it would be good to kind of talk about that and go there for just a minute, because most of what we're going to talk about is upbeat and positive, but you know, I think it's easy to talk about the good parts of this, like, oh yeah, we're restoring families, we're giving kids a home, there's a safe place, and it might always look like it's supposed to, but that's the heart behind it. That is, as you said, taking care of orphans and widows in their need. That's a good thing. But when it comes down to the struggles, what are some of the harder things about foster parenting?
I remember when Marty and I, most of you don't know this, took foster parent classes before we had kids and had fully planned to do that. But then about the time that our home was going to be final inspection and everything, I became pregnant with Isaac. And I was like, I don't know that I can have foster kids and a newborn in the same, like, month.
Amanda's like, yes, you can.
Yeah, I know.
It can happen.
I know.
mean,
It can happen. I know
it can happen,
but
and you could do it.
I'm sure we could
even
have.
if only for 6 weeks.
But
I wasn't convinced that we could.
Yeah. So
honest.
we didn't. But I remember in those classes, they'd be like, you know, don't be surprised if they pick up your TV and throw it down the stairs or something like that. So thankfully, neither of y'all have had anything quite that serious. You've had a couple of runaways, but you know, not total destruction of property.
Yeah, no. So I think my life verse is Joshua 1:9. It says, "Be strong and of courage, not frightened or dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And it's found before Joshua, that verse almost exactly in Deuteronomy, and it's referred to even after Joshua. But my courage is my theme for foster care, because it takes courage to be in this space in life. It takes courage for the foster parent, for the caseworkers, for the support people. It takes courage for the birth families and for their support people. Everything about child abuse and neglect, because when we talk about foster care, we like to skip over that the reason we have foster care is because of trauma, child abuse and neglect. I'm
That comes
saying
in
the
several
ums.
forms.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean that comes in
Yeah.
several forms too. The child
Right.
abuse and neglect.
I know I've had babies before, and people have said, "Oh, she or he will never know. They'll never know what you've taken them from." And I'm like, I love you, but you are so wrong. Even a baby that you bring home from the hospital experiences trauma from being taken from the only person they've ever known. That baby was in a womb for 9 months, and that heartbeat was the only sound that they knew. And then, they come to my home or they come to a foster home. That's traumatic. And so courage is, and I have one of my tattoos is the child abuse prevention pinwheel with the word courage in the stem, because just reminds me that, even in the hardest days, that it takes courage to wake up and love these kids and love their families and want the best for them. And on the hardest days, it takes courage to say that I can get up and do it again tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Well, and can I say something right here before you say something, Amanda? I think you said something that's super important. Is that I think that a lot of people have the mindset that foster care is about loving the kids. But you said something about loving the families.
Absolutely. It is. The whole point of foster care is reunification. And we hear all the time. If I don't hear it every day, I think I'm blocking it out. I couldn't do it. I don't know how you don't get too attached. And the truth is that I do get too attached, but I don't just get attached to the kids. I get attached to their moms and their grandparents and their aunts and uncles and dads. And, at the end of the day, a child wants to be with their birth family. And even in adoption, there is trauma. I can speak as a kid from the system because I am a kid from the system. But my birth family, now my birth father, I never really knew him, so I don't have a lot of hope or wonder about what that was like, because I don't know what I'm missing there. I have a dad, and I found him when I was 18, 19 years old, and he's my dad. That's all I need. Now, my birth mother, I did have a relationship with that was somewhat reconciled in the last few years before she passed in 2019. And, there were a lot of times that I struggled with loyalty and, what do I owe her? I owe her nothing. I didn't owe her anything. But there was still, when she passed, I told my mom that, because it was hard, but I grieved for what I never had, because she wasn't capable of taking care of me and giving me what I needed. But so I keep that in the forefront whenever I am taking care of these kids who don't know how to express any of that. Because I'm 37 years old, and at 34, I didn't know how to express those types of feelings. How in the world can we expect a 2-year-old to be able to express that? So it takes the knowing that it's about more than just the kids. It's about their families too, because we want to break cycles. And the best way to do that is to reach out to the whole family unit.
When we think about struggles with foster parenting, what are some of the ones that come to mind for you?
I think a lot of it's just the unknown. You live in the unknown. Like, you don't know what's going to happen at the next court date, or when things are going to progress, or they're not, or, every case is so different. Any judge can make any decision he wants, so therefore there's no set standard for a case. So you're just living in the unknown of what's going to happen to these children in the long term. And so that, I feel like that's the hard, that and just the, like you were talking about appointments, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we have meetings and we have to go to more doctors. Like, I've had to take a 1-year-old to the dentist. Most of you don't take your 1-year-old to the dentist.
Right. Especially if they don't have teeth.
Right. Especially, or even if they do have a few teeth. You don't take them yet. There's just all these extra, like, you can't skip any kind of appointment that some parents might choose. Well, they're okay. They don't really need that. Well, we can't make that decision. We have to do, we have to follow so many rules.
And then the paperwork with that.
Yeah.
Like,
Every
it's
time
not
you go to the
just
doctor,
that you have to
there's
do
a
it.
form.
Right.
There's paperwork. There's forms. You're sometimes working. Sometimes everyone else's schedule is taken into account, and you are just told when the appointment or the meeting is. It's almost like, as a foster parent, we don't have schedules or jobs or things going on outside. And so, the unknown is...
Yeah, because I used to be at work, and at my job, what I was doing, I didn't really have the luxury to step away, but thankfully I had a boss that would work with me, but it's like, okay, there's this meeting, I need to get on the phone and listen in, because I want to know what's going on in their case and things. So I think that, and then sometimes just you live in the, like, fear of judgment because you don't always raise a child from birth, and so therefore the kid's behaviors aren't always what society expects, and then you're like, are these people looking at me like, why don't you take it? Why don't you? Or the way you handle your discipline is so different than you would a child that you had from birth, and so therefore it's a whole new way of parenting in a sense.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to get to as we had this conversation is there was a time, and it's been within the last 6 months, that Mandy, you had 4 kids. And they were all
under the age of 3.
All of them were under the age of 3. And I would remember you coming through church on Sunday morning, like leaving, and you've got the car carriers, and you've got the kids, and you've got, like, you had an entourage, of people that helping you get to the car. Yeah. And I remember we had a conversation after a couple of those kids went back home or went to, came out of your home. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you said was, I wish that, I know that people want to help, but what we don't need is people who come up and say, just let me know what I can do for you, and I'll be glad to do it. And I think what you said in that moment was so telling. I remember you saying something like, sometimes I don't even know what I need.
Yeah.
And so as Sandridge Baptist Church, like Erin had already mentioned, we're doing the Foster Parent Association, like giving y'all a place to meet, giving you a place to do some events and things like that, which we're more than happy to do. But we as a church, I believe, should rally around parents and people who are willing to open their homes and do this. And so without giving that old tired cliche answer of, well, what can I do for you? Just let me know and I'll be glad. If you ever need anything, just let me know. Just holler and I'll be there. What can Sandridge Baptist Church, just as a church, but also as a church body, but also as individuals, just both of y'all, what can we do to help foster parents?
Yeah, so that's even amplified more when like the personalities of some people. I'm a very independent person. Growing up, I had to take care of myself. I had to look out for myself. So I never asked people for help. And that stayed with me into adulthood. So if you tell me, hey, I would love to help you, just let me know what you need, I'm never going to come to you, ever. And I will tell you that because I feel like if I ask for help, then somebody's going to say, well, if you can't do that, then you don't need to be fostering, right? So specifics are so important. I have a couple of really great examples. At Vacation Bible School this year, that was during the time that I had all 4 of my sweet kiddos that were 3 and under. And I was having a really rough time with that. And, I said I'm single and I have a great support system, but they're all doing stuff too, and but I was talking to the ladies who were doing the kitchen help in Vacation Bible School, and they didn't even ask me. They just got food together. They made spaghetti. Like, they were not doing spaghetti for Vacation Bible School. They made a batch of spaghetti to send home with me, because all kids love spaghetti. They didn't even ask me. They just whipped it together and sent it home with me that day. And then they got me some other stuff from the food pantry and things like that. But they didn't ask me. They just did it. Mm-hmm. I've had people who have offered to keep the kids for me before. And they'll say, just let me know when. Again, I'm not going to tell you. So I think specifically saying, hey, I've got some free time, a couple of hours on this day. Would it be helpful for me to keep your kids so you can go to the grocery store? Because if you've ever tried to go to the grocery store with even 2 toddlers, much less 4, woo!
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Another specific thing that people have done for me, and this is more community, not just church, but last year around Christmas, I got a placement of a couple of kids who were COVID positive, and that meant I couldn't get out. It meant I missed Christmas with my family, which I was very bummed about, because I'm a big family person. But these kids needed a home, and they even had to look outside of the region they were from. So I took them. And again, I had people from the community who did not ask me. They went and bought groceries. They went and bought Christmas presents for these kids, because they knew I wouldn't be able to go get them. They bought me Christmas presents, which obviously I did not ask for, but it was just things like that they didn't ask. They just provided. And I think it's so important that so many people want to help. They don't know how to help. And the way to do that really is just be specific in what you're offering, whatever it might be. Childcare, dinner, lunch, a little gift card for the foster parent, anything like that is so helpful and so appreciated. I don't know, Amanda, what do you have to add?
I was just going to say, I can't think of anything specific right now, because you kind of touched on a lot of them. But as we start this association up, there will be a lot of ways that we will try to get the churches, and not just our church, but churches as a whole in our community involved. As simple as, like, we're going to be doing a Christmas party coming up, and it's actually going to be here at Sandridge on December 4th. We're going to need people to help us pull that off. And then within that, we're going to have meetings that we can, and you as a community member can be a part of.
Yeah.
And help give ideas of how to support. But also, within that, we will find other ways that can be helpful in supporting that. I've thought of, like, churches. It'd be nice. They could do different churches in our community took a turn. You'd only have to do it once a year. Like, have a night where all foster parents can bring their kids, and they can go do something. And the church provides childcare that night.
Like a parents' night out for foster families. Yeah.
Those kind of things. Because it is hard to find people to watch your children sometimes. I mean, my cases are different, but in some cases it's hard to find people because they have so many different needs. And
right.
But if you bring them in an environment like this, they usually will do all right for those few hours.
And when you have more than one person helping, because like a lot of the smaller kids, I keep a lot of small kids. That's kind of my niche, I guess you would say. But it's hard. You wouldn't think it would be hard for me to get someone to keep a 2-year-old and a baby. But when the 2-year-old has extreme behaviors where they'll throw a fit over every little thing, they can't communicate because they don't know, they've not been taught to, or they don't know how to talk. It makes it harder for people to jump into that because they also don't know the needs of this child. They don't know how to respond or react. And it can be more wearing on the person. But like Amanda said, if you have like a parents' night out where you have several people helping, And just giving those foster parents a little bit of a break is such a needed thing, I think, in our community of foster parents.
Well, I've loved having you guys here and having this conversation. I think it's super timely, super necessary. I don't think that people.
Well, and as we're going into this season of Thanksgiving and Christmas, when people are often looking for ways to give back, this is a great way to start thinking about it. Because I know in the Foster Parent Association, y'all are looking for some donations of clothes. Because when a kid comes into care, a lot of times all they have is the clothes on their back.
Sure.
So underwear, socks, those things that are hard to find and are not cheap. I mean,
and typically, I would like to say that we do get help from the state for that, but typically there's a lag in what we get.
Right.
So it might take a couple of weeks to get that started, but kids need to be clothed when they come in.
Right.
And we don't just want to be like, oh, hey, welcome to my home. Here's you a bunch of used things.
Right.
And it's not that you can't give them some use, but you do want them to have at least.
We want them to feel important and not just like, oh, well, I guess
here's the leftovers.
Right. Because oftentimes they might feel like that already. They're already experiencing such a trauma. Their world's being turned upside down. So having something new to give them is helpful.
Well, and I know in some of your respite cases too, where you've just taken them for a night or two, they're still coming with the clothes on their back. So you might get a little bit of reimbursement, but you're spending more than that to give them 2 or 3 days worth of clothes and underwear and socks and
absolutely
toothbrushes and deodorant.
And I know another thing, we've kind of touched a little bit on the Foster Family Association. Is it okay?
Sure.
I'll just kind of go into that. So there used to be a Foster Family Association in Henderson County several years ago, and it kind of fell by the wayside. And Amanda and I have been, since we started fostering, we've been wanting to bring that back up. And so we've finally gotten things together after, while we've been going through this pandemic, that kind of shot us back a little bit. But we were able to kind of get it started this month and have our first meeting. We have about 13 foster families in Henderson County. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of how much we need foster parents, there are 45 kids in Henderson County right now that are in foster care. We have 13 foster families, and most of our kids that we have in our homes are not from Henderson County. So if you think about the trauma of being removed from your home and having to go live with people that you don't know, then you add on to that now you're going to have to change schools, you're going to have to leave your churches, you're going to have to leave everything that you know, all your surroundings familiar, and go live in another county and start everything over. That is a direct result of not having enough foster homes in our county. But the Foster Family Association is intended to support foster families and the children in their homes, as well as eventually and indirectly birth families of the children. And so there will be more information in the coming months about how you can attend meetings, how you can be a part of that. But what our pressing need is right now is that we are planning a Christmas party for foster families and their children here at Sand Ridge, and it's going to be on December 4th, and we would love some help with serving, with helping us tend to kids, but also even with providing gifts for the children. This is right now all coming out of our pockets because we don't have funds starting out, but this is something that we think is super important. I know growing up as a kid in foster care, it was always helpful for me to be able to go to the Christmas parties and the birthday parties to see that I wasn't the only kid going through this. And that is really my biggest heart for hosting these things. It's not necessarily to give gifts and to do all of that, but it is a chance to let these children know that we love them, we care about them, and that they are not alone. I don't know. Do you want to add anything about the Foster Family Association or the Christmas party?
I think that you covered it.
Okay.
Awesome. definitely something that we want to promote and help support with you guys. I think that is so good. As we close out the show, we're going to ask you guys a question that we ask everybody if you have listened to our podcast, and that is, how can we pray for you? And I mean very specifically, like not as how do we pray for foster parents, but how do we pray for you? How can we pray for the Foster Parent Association? Be specific. What are some ways our listeners can be in prayer for you guys and for what you're doing?
For me, you can be in prayer. Many of you know we have the adoption coming up of Madison, and as joyous as it is, we kind of touched on it, it's heartbreaking because it is meaning she won't know her birth family. And there may be an option where she gets to a little bit, but I really don't know. And there is that loss, and she's going to experience, she may not be experiencing that loss now, but she will as she gets older. And so, and then even with our other children, as that happens, as we look forward to it, just that permanency can happen soon. We've been in limbo a long time, and so just pray for permanency.
Okay. What about you, Mandy?
Yeah, so right now, I am kidless. I have no kids in my home. They went home this week, and I am trying to take a respite myself. So I think just praying for renewal, and physically I'm dealing with an ankle injury that won't heal, but also mentally and spiritually, so that when the next children come, that I'm ready in all of those areas to be able to provide them the best of me. Everyone keeps telling me I can't give them the best if I'm not the best myself. And so I have to stay strong, because it is really hard when they're texting and they're calling and they're saying, hey, we have these kids that need a home. But I have to remember that I've got to take care of me too. So just praying for that.
Pray for balance.
Balance is a really great way to put that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys have heard that. We encourage you to be praying for Amanda, for C, for Mandy, and all the kids, for Bonnie and Rick,
Still have foster
and
foster
others.
adults in their
Right?
now.
Here's the thing. The reality is, like you said, they're out there.
Yeah.
Someone's got to take care of them.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not you
And,
guys?
maybe while you've been listening to this, you've been thinking, like Mandy said, you can do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Because
Mandy Taylor on Facebook. I'm always advocating. I'm always happy to send you the information that you need to figure out if fostering is right for you. And if not, how can we continue this conversation about how you might be able to support us foster parents and support the children who are in foster care. Also, we do have an email address. We will eventually have a Facebook page for the Foster Family Association, but hctnfosters@gmail.com. You can email me, and I'm happy to get you any information.
And when this episode is published, we'll put that email in there too, so that people can see that on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else we share it.
Awesome.
In the show notes, it'll be there for people who it comes up on their podcast players or whatever else. Guys, we want to thank you for hanging with us today on I think this has been one of my favorite episodes that we've done. And we want to remind you, wherever you're listening to us, whether it's YouTube or on Facebook, right on our Sandridge Baptist Church page, you can do that now, or your podcast app of choice. There's a place there to share it, to rate it. If you would do that, it helps people find the show if you enjoy it. And if you would like to be on the show, let us know. We would love to feature you, your family, your story. It's not always going to be about ministries. We want to just tell people's stories. And so if you'd like to be on the show, we would love to have you. And so as we close out, thank you guys for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And remember that no matter what, we are
Better together.